The truly nationally minded man who hates the class spirit and wants to see a beautiful national life as we may perhaps imagine it, but which has never been experienced, leaves father and mother and those of his class in order to take sides with the victims of national disintegration, that is, the enslaved, exploited proletariat. Moses, who left Pharaoh's court in order to help his people, should serve as an example for all those who are incensed at the attitude of the Munich proletariat, but for whom the exterior pleasures linked with social standing are nearer to their heart than the distress of their own people. He who yearns for the day when we shall attain self-determined goals adapted to our national character under the leadership of men of our kind, generated from the womb of our people, must not be content with cheap desires, but must support with all his might the aspirations directed toward the dismantling of the class state. I have been reproached as being one of these foreign invaders, the Prussian, and as intending to make daring experiments on the backs of the Bavarian people and at their expense. I warn you against experiments was telegraphed to me by the president of the Reichsbank, Mr. Hovenstein, the very man who brought us to this plight, the man who, with his flood of 40 billions, caused the hoisting of the prices, the suits for usury and graft, the war profits, the giant strikes, the distress of those with a fixed income, sounds a warning. The man who thus contributed more to the breakdown of the home front, to the disintegration of public morale, to the general disturbance in the conditions of all professions, trades, and classes than all other causes combined, offers advice. When the soldiers returned on furlough, they formed the worst impression of the moral spirit prevailing, and they lost faith in their own people. All of this must be traced in largest measure to the all-destroying Reichsbank currency policy. Nervus rerum is money called, the nerve of all things, including our morals. This same Hovenstein repeated an experiment made 1,000 times and 1,000 times condemned. And now he warns me against experiments. Me, the first advocate of the perfect, stable currency. It is to laugh. He who wants to find experimenters and fantastics must seek them elsewhere. Immediately after the outbreak of war, I warned Hovenstein in a series of pamphlets and press articles and showed him the way out from the situation created by the war. He disregarded my warnings. He only saw gold and only thought of gold, gold, gold. And what, after all, is gold? Soon after the outbreak of the war, the neutral countries demonetized gold. And in spite of this, the Reichsbank held to its antiquated gold illusion. If we had had gold mines in Germany, old placer mines which had been abandoned, I am convinced Hovenstein would have taken away the workers from all other industries, even from agriculture, to have them wash gold to increase the gold cover. Not a stone, but gold he would have given us as bread. With Ptolemy, the earth was the immovable pivot of the universe. With Hovenstein, it is a block of gold. With Ptolemy, everything went dizzy when his pivot began to wobble through Galileo. With Hovenstein, we see the same wobbling just as soon as his gold-centric pivot is shaken. It will be remembered that at the instigation of the Reichsbank, shortly before the outbreak of the war, the so-called war treasure at Spandau was increased by 60 million Reichsmark, enough for a campaign of 7 hours and 12 minutes, and that this was explained as part of the financial war preparedness. It must also be remembered that the propaganda for the lowering of the prices, nonsensical in every respect, emanated from the Reichsbank as first step for the reintroduction of the gold standard. He who knows the effect of such deflationary policy, and an expert should know it, grasps his head in dismay. Now we have a money issue of more than 40 billions, of which 3/4 are hoarded and waiting for the lowering of the prices. These surplus 30 billions are here above our head like an avalanche, the first of the early break of which announces itself by sudden cracking noises. They must be recalled immediately and completely if currency is to be placed again under control. But how will the Reichsbank do it? How will it place 30 billions in loans when the rate has already dropped to 80 and less. Thus it always happens to those who proceed without deeper knowledge, and who also, under fully changed circumstances, are guided by the routine of their predecessors.